Today I'll be reading my character sketch on the character Mr. Parsons from a short story, A Man Who Had No Eyes. A Man Who Had No Eyes by McKinley Cantor is an interesting short story about an encounter between two completely different yet the same people. The story is set during a breezy spring day outside of a hotel where a well-respected businessman, Mr. Parsons, came out of. He came across a blind beggar whose name was revealed as Mr. Marquardt at the end of the story. The beggar tried to sell lighters to the gentleman, and although he doesn't smoke, he felt sympathy towards the blind beggar, so he bought them anyway. The beggar, wanting more money, began telling his tragedy on how he lost his eyesight. This is where irony appears, turning out to be a very rich topic in this story. We are introduced to two characters who seem to be strangers, but as the beggar is telling his story, it is revealed that not only do they know each other, but their blindness was resulted in the same situation, a gas explosion. The beggar also twisted the story to make him look innocent and the other man at fault, who in fact was Mr. Parsons. My character sketch will be on Mr. Parsons, who is a very vigorous man, full of life and positivity. His compassionate side is shown when he stopped and chatted with the beggar, also giving him some money, feeling sympathy for the poor blind man. Lastly, through Mr. Parsons' life story, I was able to tell how strong and independent he was. Going through it all alone is truly difficult, but he didn't give up and he was hopeful to achieve outstanding results. As I mentioned before, Mr. Parsons' outlook on life is very positive. He's full of vigor and energy, as shown through the line, "He was very glad to be alive." Despite his blindness that was later revealed in the story, he never gave up on himself and continued to follow his dreams to become a well-respected businessman. His character differs a great deal from Mr. Marquardt, who was a selfish, pessimistic, and dishonest man. The only common thing they shared was their disability. Just because he was blind didn't mean he couldn't have it all like Mr. Parsons. He just needed to have faith in himself as well, like Mr. Parsons, and most importantly, be fair and honest. I admire Mr. Parsons' vigorousness a whole lot because it is one of the best traits you can have. If everyone treated life with anger and ungratefulness, they would live a very unhappy life full of regrets. But Mr. Parsons, he's happy and thankful to be alive. At times when I get stressed with homework or school in general, I always try to think of others who have it worse than me, and yet they are still full of life, despite their tough situations. I admire those type of people immensely and have a great amount of respect for them. Mr. Parsons' compassion for people is shown through a common way that others also show in day-to-day life. Despite his high position in the workforce, he still took a bit of time to chat with the beggar and buy a lighter, not because he smokes, but because he felt sympathy for the poor man. In my opinion, being compassionate is an exceptional trait, but when you're taken for granted because of this trait, you begin feeling very drained and used. I can relate to Mr. Parsons because when the beggar had already sold him a lighter, he still wanted more money. In the hopes of getting more, he began telling his life story. I had a friend whom I was constantly feeling sympathy for and helping her out until it was clear to me that I was being used. Showing compassion towards people is great, but we also have to know our value as well and not let ourselves get taken advantage of so easily, because unfortunately not many people know how to be grateful. Independence is a vital trait to have, and Mr. Parsons demonstrated it in all the right ways. Despite his disability and no one there for him, he was so strong that he achieved it all on his own. He taught himself the value of independence and personal growth, as well as its importance. His character is also shown to have patience, which is a great addition to independence. When you try to achieve something, especially on your own, the journey can take a while and it could stress you out, but the outcome is always worth the wait, just like Mr. Parsons revealed. Mr. Parsons definitely deserved the success because he's been through it all by himself. It takes a lot of mental strength to stand up on your own 2 feet all alone. McKinley Cantor successfully portrayed many vital messages through this short story that should be taken into consideration. Through Mr. Parsons' character, he portrayed 3 traits that I personally think are important to live by in life. Treating any situation you come across with vigor and happiness will make your life so much more easygoing, and your life won't be filled with anger and despair, like Marquardt's life. Having compassion and kindness for everyone will make you an overall pleasant person to be around. Lastly, Mr. Parsons' character shows a great deal of independence, which I also consider very important for mental growth and to train yourself to be able to handle any situation by yourself. Throughout the story, we are also introduced to the different ways people treat a certain situation. Mr. Parsons treats his disability in a way that doesn't affect his life. He lives on and he doesn't let it stop him. From enjoying life. Whereas Mr. Marquardt treats his disability with anger and pessimism, which makes him an unpleasant person. I really enjoyed this short story, and I'd advise others to read it too, as the story has a really deep meaning and a teachable message. Thank you.